Imagine a piece of real estate the size of the continental United States, completely submerged 4,000 meters underwater in the pitch-black Pacific Ocean. This is the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, or the CCZ. Right now, this abyssal plain is the epicenter of the greatest gold rush in human history. Why? Because scattered across the ocean floor are trillions of potato-sized rocks containing more nickel, cobalt and manganese than all known terrestrial reserves combined. As the world desperately transitions to green energy, a massive geopolitical war is brewing in the shadows. We are talking about billion-dollar corporate shell games, tiny island nation holding the United Nations hostage, and a desperate race to break Chinese monopoly on the global supply chain. But unlocking this treasure means destroying an ancient alien ecosystem that we currently understand less than the surface of the moon. Welcome to the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, the most important battlefield you have never seen. Chapter 1: The Battery in a Rock. To understand why global superpowers are fighting over mud at the bottom of the ocean, you need to understand the polymetallic nodule. In the mining sector, these nodules are colloquially known as a battery in a rock. Unlike terrestrial mines, where you have to extract one primary metal using highly toxic chemicals and massive amounts of energy, a single nodule is a composite structure, primarily made of manganese, iron, silicates and hydroxides. But it is packed with the critical trace metals that run our modern world: nickel, copper, cobalt, zinc and rare earth elements. The green energy transition of 2024 to 2026 relies entirely on these metals. Electric vehicle batteries need massive amounts of nickel for energy density and cobalt for structural stability. Meanwhile, copper acts as a circulatory system for the entire electrified world. But land-based mining is buckling under the pressure of declining ore quality, water shortages, and public backlash over deforestation and exploitative labor. For massive corporations, the CCZ isn't just an alternative, it is existential necessity to beat the global supply shortage. But there is massive catch. Chapter 2: The Time Asymmetry. The way these nodules form is one of the slowest phenomena on the planet Earth. To grow, a nodule needs a hard nucleus to start with. Down in the abyssal mud, hard surfaces are rare, so these metals literally precipitate out of the seawater and sediment to form around fragments of basalt, whale bones, or incredibly the teeth of prehistoric sharks. A single polymetallic nodule grows at an infinitesimally slow rate of just millimeters per million years. The nodules that companies want to mine today start forming millions of years ago, atom by atom in complete darkness. Yet remote-controlled mining vehicles aren't designed to vacuum them up in seconds. Humanity is preparing to permanently destroy millions of years of geological and biological architecture just to power a consumer electric vehicle for about a decade. These nodules will not renew in any meaningful human timeframe. Chapter 3: Beating China's monopoly. So, why the rush? The answer is geopolitics. The push to mine the CCZ is a desperate scramble to break free from the structural chokehold of global supply chains. The People's Republic of China has systematically secured a near monopoly on the terrestrial processing of critical minerals. Between 2023 and 2025, China proved it wasn't afraid to weaponize this dominance, placing export embargoes on at least 11 critical minerals and rare earths, causing immediate shortages for Western civilian and defense industries. Western governments realized they needed a bypass. In April 2025, the US president issued an executive order to aggressively develop seabed minerals to bypass Chinese dominance. The market reacted violently. Following this announcement, shares of a major mining player, the metals company, TMC, skyrocketed by 46% in a single day, capping off an 800 surge between January and October of that year. But China is already steps ahead. Chinese state-backed entities like China Minmetals currently hold the largest number of exploration licenses granted by International Seabed Authority. China is also actively peeling away. What we are witnessing is neo-colonial scramble to carve up the ocean floor into strategic resource blocks. Chapter 4. The Corporate Shell Game. Because the deep ocean is defined by international law as the common heritage of humankind, a private corporation can't just sail out and start mining. Under the UN rules, they must be sponsored by a member state of the International Seabed Authority. This rule was meant to ensure responsibility, but it has birthed a deeply asymmetrical system of flags of convenience. Take the metals company. This highly capitalized multinational corporation anchored its operation in the CCZ by partnering with the tiny Pacific microstate of Nauru, a nation with just 12,000 citizens. Nauru acts as the state sponsor for vast tracts of the Pacific Ocean, despite lacking the capability to monitor billion-dollar mining fleets. And here is where it gets crazy. The financial maneuvering over this common heritage is a labyrinth of shell companies. For example, the US defense giant Lockheed Martin had massive exploration licenses under its British subsidiary, UK Seabed Resources. In March 2023, Lockheed sold the business Norwegian startup called Lake Marine Minerals. By April 2025, Loke declared bankruptcy due to the lack of investors. The UK government then rushed to transfer these massive sovereign ocean rights to an opaque firm called Glomar Minerals, which was run by the exact same CEO who just bankrupted Loke. Glomar then used these global licenses as collateral for a loan from a secretive holding company in Delaware called MHG Founding. If Glomar defaults, a random holding company in Delaware could take control of a massive chunk of the international ocean. Chapter 5. The 2-year rule. Loophole. The International Seabed Authority has issued 31 exploration licenses, but they have never actually approved commercial mining because the environmental regulations, the mining code, aren't finished yet. But corporations hate waiting, so the metals company used Nauru to detonate a legislative landmine. On June 25, 2021, Nauru formally activated Section 1, an obscure loophole known as the 2-year rule. This rule dictated that the ESI must finish the entire mining code in exactly 2 years, or elsewhere they are legally forced to consider and provisionally approve commercial mining applications anyway, even without environmental protections in place. An island of 12,000 people legally forced UN into 24-month deadline to write the most complex environmental laws in history. The deadline expired on July 9, 2023, leaving the ocean in deep regulatory vacuum. Now, TMC is going rogue. While Nauru plans to apply to the ESI, in June 2025, TMC shocked the world by announcing they would also apply directly to the US government under an outdated 1980 US law, bypassing the UN entirely. This move has sparked outrage, with the ESI and indigenous group calling it an illegal, no-colonial land grab. Chapter 6. The Abyssal Hazard. The mining industry wants you to believe CCZ is a dark, dead desert, a perfect sacrifice zone. But science paints a terrifyingly different picture. The abyssal plain is teeming with bizarre, fragile life. Over 90% of the species collected there by researchers are completely new to science. There are xenophilous, single-celled organisms the size of a tennis ball that build protective shells out of the sediment. In 2016, scientists found a new species nicknamed the Casper, ghost octopus at 4,000 meters deep. This octopus only lies its eggs on dead sponge stalks that are firmly anchored to the polymetallic nodules. If you take that nodule, you wipe out the octopus' ability to reproduce. but the tractors themselves are the real weapons. When TMC used the Hidden Gem vessel for tests in 2022, sucking up 3,000 tons of nodules, it created massive sediment plumes. The machine kicks up a benthic plume on the seafloor that chokes organisms adapted to perfectly clear water. Whereas the ship on the surface plumps wastewater and shattered nodule fragments back into the ocean, creating a mid-water plump at around 1,250 meters deep. Tests revealed these mid-water plumes contain incredibly high concentration of toxic elements, including dissolved mercury and highly neurotoxic methyl mercury. This toxic cloud could spread across the Pacific, threatening global tuna fisheries and the entire ocean food chain. The ultimate tragedy is the illusion of recovery. Because this ecosystem is so cold and energy deprived, human interference is virtually permanent. In 1978, scientists dragged a plow across the seafloor, making a track just 1.5 meters wide and 4.5 centimeters deep. When they returned 26 years later, the tracks were still perfectly visible, completely unchanged, and the local organisms had not recovered. Conclusion: the point of no return. The race for the Clarion-Clipperton Zone is the ultimate collision between our desperate need to save the planet's atmosphere and our willingness to destroy its oceans. We need critical minerals to defend climate change and escape geopolitical monopolies. But by tearing up the deep sea, we risk triggering a mass extinction of creatures we haven't even named yet. Currently, there is a massive push from scientists and environmental groups to establish moratorium or protect at least 1/3 of the CCZ from mining. But with billions of dollars and global supremacy on the line, the tractors are already warming up. What do you think? Should we sacrifice the bottom of the ocean to save the surface? Let me know in the comments. If you want more deep dives into the secret geopolitical running our world, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching.